Thank you for coming to our bureau, visiting our bureau. And I will just start this interview by asking you about yourself. Can you tell us more about yourself? Now, you passed pretty, your confirmation hearing in the Senate as the previous ambassadors was not that easy. Will you tell us more about that hearing? What is the highlight that you would like to share with our listeners, please?
Well, I very much appreciated the opportunity during my confirmation hearing to talk about the priorities of the U.S. government in the U.S.-Armenia relationship. And as Senator Menendez and Senator Corker, who was the ranking, both are the ranking members for the majority and minority, made it very clear. It's a partnership when an ambassador comes out. Ambassadors represent all Americans. And so that's, I think really the key point is we want to, I think, as was pointed out in the confirmation hearing, make sure that we're supporting Armenia's democracy agenda. What does that mean? That means supporting civil society. It means strengthening independent media. So the confirmation hearing was a very good process and an important part of becoming an ambassador.
And would you tell us more about yourself, like your previous jobs? Where did you serve as an ambassador, as a diplomat?
Well, so this is my very first time as an ambassador, and I'm very proud to be here in Armenia as the U.S. ambassador. I was most recently in my overseas postings in Moscow, where I was the Deputy Chief of Mission. And then I've had assignments in Central Asia, in Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, which of course are not so far away neighbors, and Afghanistan and Pakistan. And I think what I can tell you about all of those assignments and what I bring to this position is a determination to work with the host government and with all parts of Armenian society to strengthen and deepen the cooperation that we have in our relationship.
That's interesting. I didn't know that you served in so many countries in former Soviet Union. So actually you know the problem that we're all sharing with these countries. We have the same legacy, and it was so that means that you know very well what is post-Soviet, territories, post-Soviet countries are actually.
No, it definitely is a big plus. I come in with a general background on, as you said, the legacy issues of this region. But I've also seen that every country since the breakup of the Soviet Union has been charting its own path, and Armenia is, I think, very much in that category of charting its own path. You only have to look at the events of last year to see how it is charting its own path, and very successfully.
Yes. Now let's talk about our new Armenian government. And you met almost everyone, including Prime Minister, and you talked to them. And what's your first impression about these people, this young government?
So a few words come to my mind immediately. One is opportunity. Another is positive energy, enthusiasm, and I think that fits very well with the agenda that we have together. One of promoting democracy, which in many ways is so important to strengthening the sovereignty of a country. And then in the course of my conversations, though, we talked about many issues, how we can tackle areas that we care about, such as eliminating corruption, even in the people-to-people realm, which is so important. Armenia has so much talent here in terms of its people. So it was really a lot of wide-ranging conversations about this government's priorities and plans and how the United States can help support those.
And now let's talk about the government's actions against corruption. They started really very aggressive campaign against corruption. A lot of people were arrested and charged with corruption, and we just heard today that a former high-level official was again charged. And now they also have very active policies on reducing taxes, creating, good environment for the small and medium-sized businesses. Credit is becoming much cheaper. People can go to the banks and take credit with a lot lower rates. And what's your first, evaluation of these actions of this government? Are they doing right things, or there are some mistakes maybe you can notice? What's your?
Well, where we are focused with the government is on some of the key elements of the rule of law. How do we bolster that? How do we strengthen the institutions that are responsible for administering law enforcement, for administering the judiciary, and making sure that those are strong institutions, that they are seen as accountable to the people, that they're transparent in their actions. So that's where we're cooperating with the government, and we're encouraged. I think there's still work ahead. Every government, and that includes the United States, has work to do. You asked about taxes, and that touches a little bit on, I think, the business environment as well as, just the individual citizen. And I think there, my assessment is also how important it is that a government creates the conditions that are free, transparent, predictable. Those are the kinds of conditions for businesses that make it attractive to operate, that make them successful. And so in that respect, I think, that's another place where we're encouraging the government to work.
Madam Ambassador, we know that also there are some court cases, high-profile court cases are on the way now. The second president is even also was charged for trying to overturn the constitutional order, and all these court cases, perhaps you were evaluating this. Do you see that the Armenian government is abiding by its constitution, or you see any violation of executive and legislative and judicial branches? Do you see any problem here in general?
I don't want to speculate on ongoing court cases. What I do see is that this government has indicated a desire to, as I said, strengthen institutions that are so critical to the rule of law. That's the courts, that's the police, that is the Ministry of Justice. Other bodies that are responsible for oversight of tackling corruption. So, in that respect, we're going to continue to encourage the government to pursue those sorts of reforms. And I think then you'll see that, the spaces for fair trials, for the confidence of the people in the judicial system will follow.
And also you will help also with your expertise from the United States.
We're certainly lending our expertise in the justice sector, and we'll continue to do so.
Yes, yes. And Madam Ambassador, now we heard for the first time, we know that Prime Minister is pretty friendly towards the United States and the West, and but we heard from him just recently critical remarks about the United States, and saying that despite the U.S. praised new authorities, there is no financial backing to Armenia. He said something. I'm just paraphrasing his statement. What would you tell about this statement? How do you read his statement? Is this just is he asking for help, or is this just criticism? Please.
Well, I'm very proud of the fact that since 1992, the United States has provided over $2 billion in assistance to Armenia in developing the partnership that we have today that is so wide-ranging. In 2018, we provided $26.7 million in assistance, but that really doesn't tell the whole story. USAID in multi-year programs that are active is providing $66 million worth of assistance. And I'm also very proud of the fact that the United States was the first country to provide elections assistance after the events of last year in April and May. We were the only country to provide assistance in the municipal elections. So I think we have a very good track record. We're talking to the government about where we can continue to work, and I only see a good partnership there.
And also, let's talk about Nagorno-Karabakh. This is, as you know, this is one of the most important issues now that Armenia is dealing with. And we know that Pashinian is proposing a new dialogue between Azeri and the Armenian people. He wants to be part of peace-building process and with Azerbaijani people. And even he said he's ready to address himself and to talk to Azeri people directly. But on the other hand, we see also that he wants to restore the initial, framework of the negotiations, that is to bring back Nagorno-Karabakh to the negotiating table. But it seems to me that Azeris are not willing to accept that offer. What's your take on latest developments?
Well, of course, the foreign ministers are meeting today in Moscow under the auspices of the Minsk Group, which the United States is a part of. And what I see in the last several months is some very positive developments that I think everyone needs to keep their eyes fixed on. There have been several good contacts between Prime Minister Pashinian and President Aliyev. Those have been positive and constructive. We've seen a reduction in violence along the line of contact.
Actually, there was no casualty for many months now.
And that, I think, really is a benefit of the kind of dialogue and contact that we're seeing between these two leaders. We'd like to see that continue. But this has been a very complicated negotiation, and we're going to continue to work with the parties, work with the sides to try to reach a peaceful settlement of this conflict. I mean, because at the end of the day, what the United States sees is that a resolution of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict can mean so much to prosperity and stability, not just for Armenia, but in the wider region.
Yes, yes. And what's your take on Armenia-Turkish relationship, if you can elaborate on that, please? And we know that the government somehow, made its first statements about Turkey, saying that we're ready to start dialogue with Turkey without any precondition, but there is no response from the other side. Are you positive that something is going to happen in the future, or?
Well, it's a little hard to speculate or predict. What I certainly hope that the United States can do, that we can do here at the embassy, is promote the kind of contacts that are helpful to a peaceful resolution of the conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh, of course, but that may also help in building bridges and improving the atmosphere between Armenia and Turkey.
Madam Ambassador, do we have still channels, United States has channels with talking to Turkey about this subject, or because of the difficult situation now in Turkey, are there any, are these channels open?
Well, we talk about a wide range of issues with Turkey, and that includes our concerns for the region and our desire to see stability, to see relations improve and open up. So in that context, we're certainly talking to Turkey.
Yes. And let's talk about the U.S.-Armenia relations. They are very good, of course, and we know that there's big, large diaspora in the United States, in California, and it seems to me that there are all ingredients to bring the closer two countries, closer than they are now, both economically and politically. But this process seems to me also slow, a little bit slow. What do you think? Are we getting closer, or there is stagnation in the relationship? Would you just please?
You know, quite the contrary. And if I can give you an example, just last night I attended an event. It was called a hackathon that was hosted at Yerevan State University in the Innovative Solutions Technology Center in cooperation with the Public Journalism Club. It brought together entrepreneurs, IT folks, with government officials and civil society to try to find solutions to open government that by developing applications that average citizens could use to better access government services. And the United States was a partner in that and sponsored that. And I think that's just a microcosm of the kind of partnership that we have, and where we can be doing a lot more. So I'm actually very optimistic about our relationship.
So after this revolution, do you think that things will get much better than they were before? So you are hopeful that everything will be moving faster than it was happening before?
I'm I'm an optimist by nature. Yes. That's the job of diplomats. We're always looking for solutions and ways to improve things. So you have to understand. I'm talking in with that background, but what makes me optimistic is just in the short time that I've been here, the talent that I see in Armenia, the positive energy outside of government. But then I also, this government so far has certainly expressed the will to pursue democratic reforms, to create an environment that is attractive to business. There's a lot of follow-through. There's a need for further work to cement the gains of last year, so that's going to be very important. But as I said, I think the word is opportunity, and I see that very much in Armenia.
Yes, Madam Ambassador, what's your first impression about Armenia? You just came here just recently, and also, are you going to learn Armenian? What's your plans?
So my first impressions are that friendly, welcoming, beautiful. I've been out hiking a few weekends since I arrived. I am going to work on my Armenian, but as some have already heard in a video that I made on arrival, yes, shaturachem linel Հայաստանում. Thank
you very much for an interview.
Thank you.